Well, I keep saying things from this book or alluding to it, but I figured I would read a section of the book that I found was really good and pithy. And in fact, you'll see from the way that a lot of the print is as well, that the editors, the Christians that wanted to make sure to preserve some of the truest words of Karl Marx and his influencers, or the people who influenced him. Um, to preserve what he really thought. So for one, I thought it was kind of interesting this part where he goes into all emancipation is a reduction of the human world, of human relations to man himself. Political emancipation is the reduction of man, on the one hand, to the status of membership in bourgeois society, to the egotistical and independent individual, and on the other to the status of citizen, to the moral person. Human emancipation is achieved only when the individual gives up being an abstract citizen and becomes a member of his species as individual man in his daily life and work and situation, when he recognizes and organizes his, and of course it has to be French. They have to use French. Why make it easy to understand? Forces proper, his own strength as part of the forces of society, which are then no longer separated from him as a political power. Okay, now we get the fun part. What is all this emancipation talk of Karl Marx? What is he even talking about? What would you have to emancipate yourself from? Well, let's go into it. Because you see, what a lot of this is about in his book, A World Without Jews, Karl Marx is answering Bauer's on the Jewish question, apparently. So this is his very, very long set of criticisms to other philosophers at the time of how bad are the Jews, is what Karl Marx is really fundamentally trying to get to. So let's go into what Karl Marx has to actually say about Jewish people. Under this title, Bauer deals with the relationship between the Christian and the Jewish religions and the relationship of religion to the capacity to become free. His conclusion is this: the Christian has only one stage to go in order to abolish religion altogether, that is, to become free. The Jew, on the other hand, has to break not only with his own Jewish nature, but also with the perfectionist trend of his religion, a trend to which he has remained essentially alien. Bauer thus turns the question of Jewish emancipation into a purely religious one. The old theological argument as to who has the better prospect of salvation, Christian or Jew, is repeated in a new form. Which of the two is more capable of emancipation? The question is no longer, is it Judaism or Christianity which makes one free? It is, on the contrary, is it the negation of Judaism or of Christianity which makes one freer? You could start to see where this is going. If the Jews want to be free, they should embrace Christianity, but a dissolved Christianity dissolved religion in general, that is enlightenment, the critical spirit, and its consequence, a free humanity. And now, if you think that sounds, or like, why does it sound like gobbledygook? It only gets better. And so there is still left a profession of faith for the Jew, though no longer that of Christianity, but of a dissolved Christianity. So yeah, this is all going to keep repeating in various ways, but he starts making various assertions, absolute assertions that are become important in the tradition of Marxism. Bauer asks the Jews to break with the tradition of the Christian religion, a demand which, as he himself admits, does not jibe with Jewish nature, since toward the end of his study, Bauer views Judaism as a mere religious criticism of Christianity. It was to be expected that he would view Jewish emancipation as a philosophical and theological act. Bauer takes the ideal, abstract nature. I love these guys. The whole time I was reading this, I'm like, what is going on? But then I had to just remember who I was reading. Bauer takes the ideal, abstract nature of the Jew, that is his religion, as his whole nature. He therefore correctly, that's key, he correctly concludes, quote, the Jew contributes nothing to humanity when he disregards his limited law, when he abolishes his Judaism. The relation between Jews and Christians is therefore as follows. The Christian's only interest in Jewish emancipation is a general, humanitarian, theoretical one. Judaism is a fact offensive to the Christian's religious eye. As soon as his eye ceases to be religious, however, the fact ceases to offend him, and so Jewish emancipation in itself involves no work for the Christian. But the Jew who wants to be emancipated has to do not only his own work, but that of the Christian as well, such as the higher criticism of the Gospels, the life of Jesus, etc. Quote, they may look on, they will determine their own fate, but history will not be mocked. So now he's making some pretty serious assertions about both Christianity and Judaism, and these amorphous references to the nature thereof of various peoples. Now, at some point, somebody might start thinking, okay, this is getting a little, little iffy, a little weird. Like, Karl is going into some pretty seriously odd territory here. Well, yeah. Let's keep venturing further with Karl, shall we? Let's take a walk with Karl. Take a walk out in a field with Karl Marx. Oh, good. Okay, they're not doing anything over here. Sweet. Because I'd like to walk across this field and not have to be chased off by a tractor. Okay, so let us break the theological framing of the question, for the question of Jewish capacity for emancipation becomes the question of which element in society must be overcome in order to abolish Judaism. For the Jew's capacity for emancipation depends on the Jew's relation to the emancipation of our whole enslaved world. Let us look at the real Jew of our time, not the Jew of the Sabbath, whom Bauer considers the Jew of everyday life. That's a very important one too. What is the Jew's foundation in our world? Material necessity? Private advantage? What is the object of the Jew's worship in this world? Usury. What is his worldly god? Money. Very well then, emancipation from usury and money, that is, from practical, real Judaism, would constitute the emancipation of our time. So this starts getting to be some pretty interesting assertions now about what, he really thinks and about whom. So, the organization of society so as to abolish the preconditions of usury, and hence its possibility would render the Jew impossible. Now this is where I wrote in the over here, not subtle, and it gets less and less and less subtle as it goes on, becoming more and more definitively what we see. Oh yeah, let's see. There's this one the editors made sure to put in real big print. So that they would know, no, this is a key. This is a good one, folks. This is key. The Jew has already emancipated himself in the Jewish way. The Jew who is, for example, merely tolerated in Vienna determines by his money power the fate of the entire German Empire. The Jew who is without rights in the smallest German state decides the fate of Europe. While corporations and guilds are closed to the Jew, or are not yet favorable to him, the daring of private industry mocks the obstinacy of medieval institutions. This is no isolated fact. The Jew has emancipated himself in the Jewish fashion, not only by acquiring money power, but through money's having become with him or without him the world power, and the Jewish spirits having become the practical spirit of the Christian peoples. The Jews have emancipated themselves to the extent that Christians have become Jews. This is, I mean, this is truly, and he keeps going on. Was it, money is the zealous one God of Israel, beside which no other God may stand. Money degrades all the gods of mankind and turns them into commodities. Money is the universal and self-constituted value set upon all things, and is therefore robbed the whole world of both nature and man of its original value. Money is the essence of man's life and work, which have become alienated from him. This alien monster rules him, and he worships it. The God of the Jews has become secularized and is now a worldly God. The bill of exchange is the Jews' real God. His God is the illusory bill of exchange. I mean, like, this is, oh, what was it? But this was the thing I found interesting. Oh, what was it? Because he defines, like later on, he defines, so what, when he's like alienated, he keeps, there's this thing with alienation, and it actually means sale. He's actually referred to that you could sell something. If you could sell something, it is then something that can be alienated. I mean, it's just all this lingo that he's going, that, I mean, it really, Hegel and then Marx, because this writer also goes enough into Hegel too, the editor of this, goes enough into Hegel that he actually really presents to you how Hegel as well is just, I mean, you literally can just take certain words and exchange other words for them. And suddenly it's very clear that what he's saying is not exactly original. And is obviously just a kind of a weird rewrite of like Talmudic, Kabbalistic, uh, like, oh, was it Neoplatonic kind of Gnostic stuff, and does require sort of that you have this Gnostic understanding of humanity. You just understand the masses. So, oh, and here's they're working away on this. So I just wanted to go through that a little, go through it a little more um, at another point. Want to get in a little bit of gameplay and fiddle faddle around. So yeah, but this is so that book really is. It's me. I'm thinking a lot about things that are happening among the leftists now, because now is this time where it's like, well, this is what you all really think, and or this is what your founders thought. So how much do you really differ from your founders, being that it makes sense, like when you could understand why Karl Marx and Islamic Arabs and stuff like that, as they're seeing the Ottoman Empire fall. I mean, and the British spread, and there's Jews within the British colonial bureaucracy. I mean, you could see why the Salafist Jew hate of Islam started to dominate Islam, when that wasn't necessarily what was happening by the time you get to the last Turkish caliph, where you get these stories of these caliphs who were actually quite amenable and accommodate Jewish people. So it's very, very interesting. I'm yeah, finding it all very interesting. All right, talk to you guys later.